pleasure to have you here in London. I'm really looking forward to the walk that you're going to take me on. So could you tell me about the walk that you have chosen?
My understanding of your methodology is that it includes bringing a part of home, however you think of home, with you in a new place that you have arrived at. For me, an important place of belonging throughout much of my career has been the university where I've taught, Oregon. A route that goes from my office for 30-some years at the university to a new place that was meant to open up the university as a broader place of belonging to a larger community, a place of gathering and remembering and learning about women's lives. And we named it the Walk of the Heroines. I came to think of it as a feminist project that connected us with women throughout history, including the many women who struggled and fought for the dignity and rights of women here in London. You know, the United States and Britain were two places in the world that have been known for the history of feminism. And one of the Native American artists who was in the initial charrette suggested we use the concept of braiding in the walk. Now, we might think of a braid as a feminine aesthetic, but she used it in a lot of her work to bring about the idea of people coming together, tribes or groups, coming together and preserving their distinctiveness while finding a common direction.
That's wonderful, Jan. Thank you so much. So let's walk.
This is our first stop at Tavistock Square. Here we have someone who is remembering a person who worked for peace and justice, and a number of these benches seem to be that kind of remembering of bringing the history of the dead into the land of the living.
Here's a woman. So the previous benches have been in memory of men, and here we have a living memory of Jane Smart.
Virginia Woolf's home for many years was on this side of the park where there's now the Hotel Tavistock, and she lived there and wrote there for many years, and much of the building, including her house, was bombed during the war.
I think it's quite fitting that we, she's on our first walk as a woman and an artist who wrote about walking and who explored the city, thinking about what is in the mind, or imagining what the person who's passing you in the street might be doing or maybe from.
So this is not Virginia. We have not found Virginia Woolf yet.
But it's a woman.
It is a woman.
So it's one of.
You know of her?
I don't know of her. It looks like she was Dean of London's Royal Free Hospital. So this Louisa Aldrich Blake that we've just stumbled across was the first British woman to qualify as a surgeon.
I think we should post a flag here, a Walk of the Heroines flag, to make it unofficially London's Walk of the Heroines so far.
This is rather lovely, Jan. This lived in a house formerly on the south side of Tavistock Square, where most of her great novels were written and published. And then there's a quote: "Then one day, walking around Tavistock Square, I made up, as sometimes make up my books, to the lighthouse, in a great, apparently involuntary rush." That's delightful.
I'm going to read my favorite Virginia Woolf quote in my own memorial to Virginia Woolf. "Women have served all these centuries as looking glasses, possessing the magic and delicious power of reflecting the figure of man at twice its natural size." So I'm going to read a quote in International Solidarity with Women from Virginia Woolf. "As a woman, I have no country. As a woman, I want no country. As a woman, my country is the whole world."
That's wonderful, Jan. And I think that's really a wonderful quote that links directly, all women. But for me, this day is very special because today is End Violence Against Sex Workers Day, the 17th of December. and it is End Violence Against Sex Workers globally. So today, women will be marching in solidarity with sex workers.
Okay, I'm now so attached to the Tavistock Square as our London Walk of the Heroines. I feel a bit sad in leaving, but we should go on and see what else we can find in our walk.
So we're going to take a walk in search of suffragettes and early feminists, as well as public representations of women. And we know already that there are very few public representations of women in London.
Yeah,
but
we could be walking all winter.
So here we are in this really important square in the centre of London, Trafalgar Square, surrounded by these male historical rulers.
This is a square where there's been so much political activity, protests, anti-war rallies, and this is an important spot in the history of the suffragist movement, that during a period when they moved to mass mobilization and militancy, they took over this square and marched down areas of London.
I think there was something like 10,000 women in this vicinity, though, which was just phenomenal. So imagining, this place, just literally full of women with their sashes, with their suffragette colours, with their banners and their spears too.
And some women were arrested during those protests, and that was a time between 1905 and 1915 when the suffragist movement had gathered tremendous momentum as a mass movement, and there was a split. The focus more on working class women, trade unionists who were part of the struggle fighting for better working conditions versus the property rights and voting rights of wealthy women.
I think this is a fitting place to think about Mary Wollstonecraft and vindication of the rights of women. She was 34 when she died, giving birth to Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and Mary Wollstonecraft, she was living in the mid to late 1700s. And so I think this is a fitting place to do a reading from Mary Wollstonecraft, the first feminist, or the woman who's associated with the birth of feminism.
What some call the Bible of feminism.
Yes. Mary Wollstonecraft. It is justice, not charity, that is wanting in the world.
Now, what do you think she meant by that?
Oh, it's equality and rights of women, not a handout.
That's right.
That is wanting in the world. So in London, we've discovered that there are only 10 public statues to women. There is no statue, there is no memorial to Mary Wollstonecraft. There is a campaign group. Mary Wollstonecraft, pioneer of equal rights, has no proper memorial anywhere in the world. So this campaign, the Mary Wollstonecraft Memorial Project, maryonthegreen.org, are campaigning and fundraising to create one. But thinking also to issues of race, of the 10 public statues to women in London, there is one to Mary Seacole, who I believe was a nurse in the Crimean War, who supported soldiers. And, I think we should probably do a little bit of research around her. But I think, this is clearly one woman, one woman out of 10 is a black woman. So phenomenal.
Yeah.
And in this one place, we probably have more than 10 statues to men, of white men and colonialists.
And we have the history here of how women have claimed this space in a dramatic political way.
Yes.
Including being willing to be arrested in defiance of the police, who were caught for acts of apparently industrial sabotage, or refusing to leave buildings when they were asked to leave, putting forth petitions and kind of holding their ground.
Oh, this is fabulous. This is the women of World War II, and it is their clothes. Okay, it's the clothes of the uniforms they would have worn during World War II. It's interesting that the women of World War II are they're absent but for their clothes. And then directly across you have Master of Strategy, who's fully embodied, looking down towards Horse Guard Parade.
Where he and his uniform are one. A century ago were petitioning or demonstrating in front of Parliament, where would they be?
I think on the green over there, directly opposite the Houses of Parliament.
Evelyn is the mother of the suffragist movement in the UK.
Yeah,
And she had 2 daughters.
that's right. Emmeline, Sylvia and Christabel.
Maggie, here she is.
Yes.
Our heroine.
Our heroine.
We've come a long walk, Emmeline, to see you.
This statue was erected as a tribute to her courageous leadership of the movement for the enfranchisement of women. There's Dame Christabel, one of her daughters.
And Sylvia.
Prisoner's badge. This is a prisoner's badge.
On behalf of all of the sisters of the Walk of the Heroines in Portland, Oregon, I want to pay tribute to Emily Pankhurst, one of the mothers and sisters of the women's suffrage movement. Finally, a memorial statue in a woman's honor. Well deserved for sure, but it's a high bar if you have to lead a century-long struggle to get a statue. I want to read a few quotes from her work in her honor. Those men and women are fortunate who are born at a time when a great struggle for human freedom is in progress. It is an added good fortune to have parents who take a personal interest in the great movements of their time. I'm glad and thankful that this was my case. And she was speaking of herself as a parent who appreciated her daughters who had joined her in struggle. For those of us who are the mothers of young feminists and activists today, we, I think, have a role to play in supporting them, not leading, because our era has passed. It's up to young people to take up the struggle and to find it in their own terms, but to know that we have their backs.
This is a really wonderful spot to conclude our walk. Our walk of the heroines through London.
Yes.
From a place you call home in Portland, Oregon, to a special place, the walk of the heroines that you created. So I think this is a really fitting finale for our feminist walk through London. This fabulous monument to Emmeline Pankhurst.
Carry it on, carry it on, carry it on, carry it on. They will tell their lying stories, send their dogs to bite our bodies. They will lock us into prison. Carry it on, carry it on, carry it on, carry it on. All their dogs will lie there rotten, all their lies will be forgotten, all their prison walls will crumble. Carry it on, carry it on, carry it on, carry